What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are going to be beginning our next 3-round mock draft with trades. This is going to be split up into 2 different days, just like the NFL draft. Today, day 1 is going to be round 1, and tomorrow, day 2 is going to be rounds 2 and round 3. We're going to combine them both just like the NFL draft does because that's fun. I also like to be able to have 3 rounds every single week just so y'all get to truly experience something awesome every single week. See how my opinion changes because I like to try new things out. You guys give me new information. There's new injuries. There's new everything every week. I honestly thought it would get kind of boring doing mock drafts every week at the beginning of this, but honestly, there's always a new idea that pops into my head that changes the whole draft, and that's what makes it truly fun. What also makes it truly fun is y'all being able to join the community by commenting, and subscribing because we're on the way to 10K. We'd love for you to join in that. And again, being able to interact down in the comment section is the best part of the job. You know, it's cool to be able to have content, be able to talk to people, but most importantly, being able to talk to you is the best part. So let's have some fun. Let's hop right into this. This is going to be a live mock draft, so bear with me, but we're going to have a good time together. Starting out with the first overall selection, we got the Chicago Bears. So at this selection, there are 3 moves that you can make. There are going Caleb Williams at quarterback. There is going Marvin Harrison at wide receiver. And there is trade out. Now, trade out is a potentially very lucrative option. One of the 2 top teams are going to trade out. We just have to admit it as it is. That's what's going to happen. But at the same time, you know, there is essentially 2 top quarterbacks, and you know Marvin Harrison is going to be one of those first 2 picks. Quarterback's probably going to be another one. The question is, do the Bears need Marvin Harrison that badly? I personally think no. However, I do believe in the value of adding someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. that could truly transform a franchise. Now, Marvin Harrison ain't going to do jack if you're going to be throwing 17 passes at the line of scrimmage or behind. Let's just make that very clear that Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison they're not going to make the team more effective if you don't get a damn new offensive system in there. So keep that in mind. I assume that will be the case. What I have seen is that Justin or Caleb are going to both have success in this offense. I do think that, well, not this specific offense, but I do see paths for success for both. Now, I think next week will be a week that I test going Caleb number 1 and trading Justin Fields. I want to hear y'all's thoughts on that. But for the time being, I'm going to keep Justin because I do think that in the right system, he can be almost as effective as Caleb. I think he's a better runner than Caleb, and I think he might be more durable overall, maybe without his little finger issues. We'll talk about that another day, but I'm going to go Marvin Harrison here. I think that you get the best player in the draft that's not quarterback, and you get some new offensive system guys in there who know how to work with a mobile quarterback, and then you let Justin cook. Komet looks good. You have DJ Moore there, who's an elite level receiver, and now you add Marvin Harrison to the equation. There's no more excuses. And ultimately, I mean, you can't even blame the offensive line because even if we don't get Olu here at pick number 4, you're still getting a great choice at Braxton Jones at that left tackle spot. For the value, it is ridiculous. He's not an elite player. Let's not get that wrong. But for the value of having someone on such a cheap contract to be a very viable left tackle, and you got to admit, there is certainly some merit to that. So at pick number 2, the Cardinals are trading out of here. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. or get the hell out. And I'm looking at the teams that are available for a move up. The New York Giants, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, those are the teams that I really do believe are going to be in the running for this. You could talk about the Jets, but man, the Jets don't even have a 2nd-round pick. There's no added value for the Cardinals here because, again, they're also going to have Aaron Rodgers. You got to think of the future draft capital of the teams. And ultimately, I would be really heavily valuing these 2 right here. You could look at the Las Vegas Raiders, but that is a lot to move up. And I mean a lot to move up. So when valuing this pick properly, we have to look over at New York and Tampa as the main viable options. Again, you can do something crazy, but I don't feel like the other teams are that desperate. They don't have everything in place to where they believe they can move up and make that guy that guy. and be able to have that be totally worth it. So when looking at the two teams that are the right picks here, I traded up yesterday in my no trades mock draft, so feel free to check that out. I also did a 2025 mock draft this past weekend, so feel free to check that out as well. It was very, very fun, and a continuation of last week's mock, so it's a nice way to get a combination of both mock drafts at once. Anyways, ended up moving up with the Buccaneers, and I do think this is a very smart decision if we do end up taking this route, because Tampa Bay is a group full of veterans, but I don't really fully trust them to hit the ground running in such a way. I mean, they're in a crap division, to be fair. You trade with the Giants, there's no guarantee they're going to have success because they're in one of the toughest divisions, arguably, in football. So weigh that yourself, right? For me, when I weigh it, NFC South is actually kind of garbage. Again, just going to say it as it is. We're going to have multiple new quarterbacks in the NFC South. And, whether it's going to be the Saints, which I'll probably be drafting a quarterback for the Saints, the Bucs, the Falcons. I mean, this division's crap. It really is. It is not good. I don't even remember. I'm like slipping up on the other team of the NFC South. Yeah, we're talking about the Panthers here. God, like this actually might be the worst of the two because of the fact that they easily can jump to number one in their division. Do you believe New York's going to be number one in their division? New York fans are going to get excited because they're going to get Caleb Williams out of this. However, you have to believe this team ain't going to jump to number one in their division just like that. They got multiple second-round picks, which is why I also think it's very smart for New York to leverage that to move up. So I do think this will take like at least this. Again, PFF doesn't allow for more than this in terms of trades. I would be open to trading Evan Neal in this equation as well, but I'm going to halt for the meantime. The Cardinals maybe toss in, like one pick 199. Like again, you do your own little negotiating here, just so New York keeps similar amount of picks, right? I assume it would also include a 2026 second round pick. So I'm not going to undervalue this. I do think that would be the price to pay. So again, include a 2026 second in here. But New York moves up, as they should. It's a team that they have their own respective issues, but you have the draft capital to move up. We still have 3 picks in 3 rounds. That is excellent. For the fact that you just moved up and gave away that much, and you still have that much, good job on you. Good job. So for me, I'm going to be going Caleb Williams here. Some people do believe that Drake Maye will be the guy who's selected before. Feel free to argue in the comment section below because there is a legitimate argument for it. Drake Maye is a very talented quarterback. He has the arm to be able to hit every NFL throw. He has big play potential. He's a good runner. I don't trust him to stay healthy. Brother does not know what the term slide means. And to be fair, I think he's 220 pounds, but the brother is not built to be a battering ram. We got to call it as it is. Caleb Williams is not either, but Caleb Williams knows how to slide. Caleb Williams is also one of the best playmakers I've ever seen. Now, I have seen some potential concerns over emotional fragility. He basically doesn't know how to fully compose himself. And would I want Caleb Williams with that type of personality to be the face of my organization? I don't like the fact that it would be the face of my organization, but the play and the fact that it doesn't seem to bother his teammates is what truly matters. Because at the end of the day, this is a business, but it's a business based on winning football games and winning over a locker room. Caleb Williams doesn't look like he's lost the confidence of his locker room. Therefore, we're still going to be going with the Giants with Caleb Williams. Next pick is going to be Drake Maye. I don't feel like I need to rattle off a long tail on this one. Already talked about the heights and the lows of Drake Maye. Consistency still kind of an issue. Obviously, yes, he didn't beat every team in his way. He doesn't have an extremely huge resume of monster victories, which is a concern, but football is a 53-man sport, 22 on the field total, and it's not just down to one guy, and Drake Maye makes the most of it. His last game got 2 interceptions, pretty much both were deflected. So I can't really blame him for that on the stat sheet. At pick number 4 for the Chicago Bears, looking at the offensive line, I do think that the 2 top tackles in the class, there's 2 top left tackles. Let's take a quick look and look at this together. Below my face, by the way, is my board. Below that is all the ways to get involved with the community, as well as take advantage of the special codes and stuff, including Olipop, which is going to be the only way my voice survives this whole thing. So there's some ASMR for you. I do believe there is 2 top left tackles. Just like I've been doing recently, I think Amarius Mims is going to return to school. I think he's a top 3 selection in another draft. In next year's draft, he's a top 3 selection. It's not a good draft, to be fair. He could be the number 1 selection. But, essentially you have 2 top left tackles, 2 top right. The rest, not so much. So I do believe there should be a little bit disproportionate value placed on the tackles of the class, because you have pretty much 2 stalwart left tackles that will be there for a very long time. And there are some teams like the New York Jets that I think could be in the running, but I want to go after a team that needs a left tackle and has a 2nd round pick. I'm looking right here at the Titans. I do think they could be in striking range. I'm also looking at the Saints. I'm also looking at the Packers. I'd be willing to do an in-division trade just to give them a tackle. I don't give a damn. But ultimately, I don't really see, I see 1 tackle going right here, because I heard a lot of feedback from y'all Washington fans. Y'all, you're very vocal. I appreciate that. It hurts, but I appreciate it. But the Jets just don't have what I'm looking for. If you want to really trade with a team that has a solid 2nd round pick, maybe you got the Rams in there. Again, I would personally be down to trade with Green Bay. But I'm not seeing it personally. I'm not seeing the value there. And I still think, even though I talked how great Braxton Jones' value is, he's still a pretty okay left tackle. He's not an elite left tackle. So I'm going to eat my words here, because I do think that getting a solidified left tackle is just kind of the final piece. We're going to go Joe Alt, and we are going to kick Braxton Jones into guard, or even potentially test him out at center. I didn't see the value. And again, I really would love to trade out and get that 2nd round pick back. But without a quarterback on the board and a team that's desperate for a tackle having the capital for it, like the Titans, again, I could have seen it, but man, that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell to be able to have to move up there. You essentially have to give another 1st round pick. So that's tough for a team that's still rebuilding. But at pick number 5 for Washington, this is going to be Olu Fashanu. I am correcting my wrongs from yesterday. Why do you think I do 2 mock drafts a week? Because, well, 1, I get put in unique situations where I don't do trades. That's tough to be able to be put with your back against a wall, just like I did here, and then draft a tackle. But also, it's a good way to test out what players are good in certain spots. You guys correct me on some pretty obvious blind spots, and that's kind of one of the issues of doing this live. But it's also one of the fun parts. You get to hear my thought process in the moment. But Brock Bowers still would be an excellent addition for Washington, but your offensive line does need help. I'll give you that. Your offensive line needs help. But at pick number 6, I'm going to listen to y'all once more. I know defensive interior needs help. We got a lot of picks to fix that. We got a lot of picks to fix the defense in general. However, there's only one true king of the corners here, and it's not Nate Wiggins. Let's get that out of our minds. It is Kool-Aid McKinstry. This team needs a true number 1 corner. You need help. And that's okay, because you get it. You get extra 1st rounds, 2nd round picks. Like, that is well worth it. And again, the New York Giants probably won't be winning their division anytime soon. So, they could technically outperform Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay is going to be sitting right here. And with this selection, I do think they end up going a quarterback like Bo Nix. But I do want to evaluate some of the other options, like trading back. You got Brock Bowers on the board. That's a tough player to have sitting here, just waiting and saying, I'll let you go. I do think the Chargers, I know a lot of people are talking, there's a lot of issues on the Chargers. This is a much shorter range trade. This is essentially a 3rd round pick to move up. Like 2 spots, this is a 3rd round pick. That is digestible. That is something that I'd be perfectly fine with. And I don't think the Chargers are that desperate apart from that cornerback territory where, again, we can grab somebody who's a corner 2 there in the 2nd round. You can't find someone of the value of Brock Bowers. I've been totally on this Chargers to Brock Bowers train. Nobody else seems to love it, but I love it. I do. Another team I could see right here is the Cincinnati Bengals. But you start putting yourself out of quarterback range. I want to stay in quarterback range. I am going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers here. Again, this will at most be a 3rd round pick. at most. Like, we might even get a pick 185 in return. It's not going to affect the mock draft. So, again, like, do it at your will. Like, maybe we just toss in like a future 6th and then 220. Who cares? Again, it's not going to be a real determinant on this draft specifically. But we're going to go Brock Bowers here because I think in a Kellen Moore offense that really values tight ends, Brock Bowers, also a great blocker, is going to be able to affect every single down. Brock Bowers is excellent. It's a damn safe bet. He is one of the 3 generational level players I see in this class. At pick number 8 for the Jets, it's another easy one. I know wide receiver Keon Coleman actually is very, very enticing, but when you have an old Aaron Rodgers or any quarterback for that matter on your roster, get him protected. And I'm going to go JC Latham for that. I think he's more of the polished guy. I went to Tulise in the last round. It really doesn't matter. Whoever takes JC will be happy with JC. They'd be happy with Tulise as well. Both of them have their unique strengths. I think JC's a little bit more polished as a pass protector. He is a little bit larger, even though 334 pounds for Tulise is perfectly fine. JC is technically listed at 360 pounds. So hello. But JC, he's been ascending at a similar rate to Tulise. He's just not as dominant of a run blocker. And I feel like this team doesn't value the pure power of the run blocking game as much as maybe a little bit more of the finesse of the pass blocking game. So there you go, JC. Tampa Bay, if they ended up wanting to, could actually go Tulise Fuaga here. That is an underrated option. However, I am going to be going the quarterback route. I think Bo Nix would be a very solid selection here. I think Michael Penix would be a very solid selection. Like, realistically, one of these quarterbacks should be going to this team. I love Baker, but ultimately, I think he should be relegated as almost a Gardner Minshew, where he's going to come in and he'll win you some games, but this guy's not going to be the long-term starter. Like, he's somebody who's worth pushing the starter to be as good as they can because you have someone who is fringe starter quality, who's on your roster, who is going to take the job if you don't perform well enough. So I feel like he's a force multiplier rather than he's a force multiplier in the background rather than in the foreground. So we're going to be going Bo Nix here. He's the 3rd best quarterback, in my opinion, arguably the 2nd. People talk about how old he is. I mean, he's barely older than most of the other quarterbacks that people love. He has the most yards, most touchdowns. Like, I don't really see a statistic that is negative on Bo Nix. And when you really watch Bo Nix, which I was surprised by, you could see the ascension of his game. He's calmed down a lot as a passer. And for people complaining that he's Mr. Checkdown, to be honest, a lot of quarterbacks have succeeded in this NFL being Mr. Checkdown. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's a bad thing for a quarterback to truly not put the ball in harm's way. He's able to put up 400 yards, and up to 6 touchdowns in a game, and not even throw an interception, not throw a turnover-worthy play. That is very difficult to do. Even though you have great playmakers, it is still very difficult to do. So I got the same player for the Buccaneers that I would have at 7, but I also got a 3rd-round pick. So y'all get to have a little bit more fun tomorrow. At pick number 10 for the Titans, this is Tulise Fuaga. We need offensive line. That's the bottom line. It could end up being a left tackle. I don't think it matters. I think both left and right tackle are upgradable. I don't think you have your answer at either. So get Tulise Fuaga, get the best tackle on the board. Again, I debated moving up, but imagine rather than getting Tulise Fuaga and, whoever we get in the 2nd, maybe A.D. Mitchell, right? You end up with Olu Fashanu. I technically have Olu barely higher than Tulise, which technically Olu should be falling. Olu's probably right here in the 7 to 9 territory. I'm probably going to bunch them all up. I'm going to be one of those guys where it's like, you can't, whatever you like, not be very decisive on that. But again, they all have their unique strengths and weaknesses. I think staying and taking Tulise, if you're really sold on a left tackle, it's a different story. But I do think this team's offensive line is just poor enough all around to where you can sit and be happy with whatever falls to you. Also, the run game is pretty integral to y'all's success. Being able to get the best run blocker in the class doesn't sound like much of a negative to me. At pick number 11 for the Las Vegas Raiders, we are going to, again, I don't know if AP is going to be your coach, but people love this pick. If AP is your coach, he's already coached Jayden Daniels for multiple years. I am happy taking Jayden Daniels to the team all day long. 6'4", 210 pounds, a little bit on the lighter side, but one of the most versatile athletes I've ever seen. like really is scary when he's outside the pocket. I think that he only has had 1 year of legitimate success, and that's been kind of the big negative. But at the same time, LSU saw another quarterback that had 1 year of real success, and he's on the Bengals now, kicking ass. He was in the Super Bowl. So, there are reasons to not to discount what's happened before. But again, people seem to have almost like it doesn't seem to add up when you look at some other quarterbacks who have had that ascension as well in their career. But Jayden Daniels is an amazing athlete. He pretty much, to me, reminds me of Lamar Jackson in terms of the big playability with his legs, and then also is able to hit those guys with his arm. So, definitely I think is a good building block of a strong franchise. At pick number 12, the New Orleans Saints. You got to go QB. I'm killing my Seahawks here. Like, I couldn't find a team. Like, I maybe could have traded back with the Jets or something. I was waiting, trying to lurk with one of these two teams here for a quarterback. I'm not having Shedeur come out in this either because I just highly doubt that he'd actually come out. But it's like down to Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy. This team needs help. They do at the quarterback position. This is a big issue in this draft, and I'm very excited to see free agency for this reason because it will give us a little bit of a hint as to what will happen. Most of the quarterback needy teams are in a really good position to get a quarterback. And there's just two teams that are really far away. So there's not much debate on who's going to be getting the quarterbacks because the two teams that, in my opinion, might benefit the most from it in terms of instant impact, which is the Vikings as well as the Seahawks, they're the farthest away. It's going to be really intriguing. I wanted to move up with either of them. I couldn't. Like, for me, I was trying to reason with myself to be like, okay, why would the Saints not take Michael Penix here? I was really trying to find a way, and I couldn't. So, apologies about that to the Seahawks and Vikings fans. I'm trying my hardest to get that for y'all, but it is what it is. At pick number 13 for Green Bay, I am in love with the idea of y'all going Keon Coleman here. You need someone who's reliable. I want to do it so badly. You don't realize how badly I want to pull the trigger on this. I try to be realistic with these mock drafts as well, though. And ain't no way in hell Green Bay is going to select a wide receiver first round. It rips my heart out to do this. But we're going to opt out of going after Keon Coleman. Another position that, God, that hurts. It really does hurt. I genuinely want to get Keon Coleman for you guys. You can bully your organization because, again, I could totally take Keon Coleman saying it's what you should do. And if you want what teams should do mock draft, by all means, like for the most part, I try to do what teams should do. And luckily the talent is good enough to where I don't feel like people are really overreaching. But I'm looking at Jerzon Newton and Cooper DeJean at this point. I think the safety class is not that great, but it is, again, within striking range with that 40 and 45 pick, as I found out in my last mock draft. I don't see the value because you have Devontae Wyatt and you have Kenny Clark, but there's not that bona fide elite defensive interior player that's beside Kenny Clark, and it is an area of improvement for y'all. And right down the road in Illinois, Jerzon Newton is by far the best defensive interior player in the class. Elite block shedder, unbelievable athlete. Just one of those players that is extremely hard to find. And what's really awesome about Jerzon is the fact that he, to me, was a pass rushing specialist who had some big plays in the run game. He's consistently become one of the better run defenders on the interior. He's super versatile, and you need someone who can really stuff up the interior. I don't want to have a situation where we have to spend multiple picks to move up for T'Vondre Sweat, because that's kind of the situation I'd put us in if I don't go after this. We need somebody to help in the run game. Our division's going to be heavy in the run. We need to do what we can. Jerzon Newton's also an elite pass rusher, so we are going to be opting to go Jerzon Johnny Newton. It also does feel like a Packers pick. You could, again, go up after Cooper DeJean. It's what I did yesterday. But I think Jerzon Newton is an option that I don't choose enough, but is an extremely likely option if he's there on the board, because that is a massive addition to the defensive interior. At pick number 14 for the Los Angeles Rams, I, of course, am saying Amarius Mims is returning. I will say it multiple times in this video. So for those of y'all who are actually watching this all the way through, I do apologize. However, there are people who, including myself, I do this sometimes, skip through the video and sometimes miss when people say certain things. But for the Rams, I do think the value right here is perfectly ripe for a trade back. And I'm looking at a couple teams that could be massive profiteers off of a trade up for Keon Coleman. Not many wide receivers in this class possess that size and big catch ability. And he's a true X wide receiver. I'm looking actually right here at the Cardinals. I know it's going to piss off my fans who are Cardinals fans. But moving up for Keon Coleman actually wouldn't be a bad idea. We have a ton of draft capital at this point too. We don't even need to spend, and we don't even need to have this all on defense. And yes, we're going to draft another defense interior. Most likely will be Chris Jenkins. Like, we're going to have plenty. But we should be at least in the market to move up. We're not going to because it's in division, but like, I want to hear, because my Cardinals fans are very vocal, what y'all think about it. Some other teams that could be looking for that bigger X receiver, I could say right now with the Texans, that is a very valid position to go after. I think with the Chiefs could use a star like Keon Coleman. But the next two picks are going to be Keon Coleman and Malik Neighbors after this. The question is, do I want the Bills to sit and wait and sit pretty? Or do I want to have another team get aggressive? Because some teams do get aggressive. And I'm looking at one right now in the Chiefs. And Malik Neighbors is a good way to tell the Bills to screw off. But they can end up getting Rome Odunze. I don't think a team's going to bite. I don't. Based on the fact that there's multiple wide receivers available, I do not think a team is going to bite. So if we have to sit here and we have to choose somebody, I think the best option probably is Cooper DeJean. Going after a very versatile defensive back. You could go after a corner here in Nate Wiggins, but ultimately, I think the versatility of Cooper DeJean is going to be that's going to be most coveted. So that is going to be the position I go for the Rams. Just get a Swiss Army knife, plug and play, see where he goes. At pick number 15 for the Bengals, God, it kills me, but they're not going to re-sign T. So there you go. Keon Coleman is the selection. I should have honestly just traded with the Cardinals and said, you know what, we'd rather face Keon Coleman a couple of times a year than in the Super Bowl, but I don't think the Rams are in Super Bowl striking range anytime soon. But for the Bills, this is going to be Malik Neighbors. I feel like I don't really need to explain either of these too much, but for professionalism's sake, Keon Coleman will end up replacing T. Higgins, save $25 million a year, and he is probably just as good, if not better. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 2, Gabe Davis is not great. Malik Neighbors has the speed and the after the catch ability to either take a screen to the house or either just take a streak to the house. And with a quarterback like Josh Allen, who can really hit guys deep or miss them deep, but that's a conversation for another day, then, it's worth it. It is well worth it. At pick number 17 for the Cardinals, we sat, we waited, and looking at the options now, I think edge rushers in the running. I do. I would not go after another corner. That would be I wouldn't be against it. Garrett Williams is performing well though, so we're gonna leave that off the table for the time being. The defense is absolute butt cheeks, and I think we can move back and still get Tavondre Sweat. The teams I could really worry about taking Tavondre is probably the Houston Texans. That's where I'd be really worried. The Lions and the Chiefs. So I want to see if maybe some teams want to move up for Rome Odunze within this range, and I don't see it. But there are some elite level edge rushers, and some teams should be in the market for it. And one of them is the Falcons. But shoot, this is one of those weird spots of the draft where a lot of the good players have already gone, and we're left with the positions with a ton of players of value. And if I don't want Tavondre Sweat to go, I could trade back and then trade up. It's possible. We don't need the picks. That's the issue. We don't need the picks. The Vikings are not going to get a better player by moving up. The Seahawks are not going to get a better player by moving up. You can look at the Cowboys. The Cowboys could be in the mood for somebody, but I don't see the player they would go after. So, unfortunately, Cardinals fans, we're going to stay put. And in order to stay put, I'm going to get the best player available. I wanted to move back into Devondre Sweat. Devondre Sweat's not worth the 17th overall pick yet. It's Jared Verse. It really is. Dallas Turner, Braylon Trice, Jared Verse, pick your poison. Braylon Trice technically is better fit for this team, but I think Jared Verse is overall going to be perceived as the best talent. So we'll go Jared Verse. At pick number 18 for the Broncos, I think that continuing to bolster the defense is not a bad idea, but also helping out the offense with Rome Odunze. You're also taking him away from the Chiefs because I definitely wanted to trade up for him with the Chiefs. I'm going to go Rome Odunze and then add a little bit more fire to Mr. Unlimited's ass because he's cooking. He's cooking. Let's just stoke the flames a little bit more and get Rome Odunze. Again, it's another way to be very defensive against your in-division rival here and the beast of the Chiefs. At pick number 19 for the Atlanta Falcons, Braylon Trice is the best option. I know, I do it all the time, but Leatu Latu is as well. To change things up, because I do go Braylon Trice for him quite often, I will go Leatu Latu. There's no reason to move back and take another QB. I don't think that J.J. McCarthy is going to have that level of impact on this roster the way that, a team like the Vikings could use. So we are going to go after Leatu Latu. And I'm just going to double check really quickly for like 3 seconds. So sorry for the UI for you guys. I just had that deep feeling since, the Vikings lost that they'd be a little bit lower on the rankings, and they aren't. Colts are somehow, some way in the playoffs. God forbid. You still have elite level players here on the edge room, and I feel like that should be valued. You got Chop Robinson, man. Like there's such good edge rushers that you can wait and just grab someone of amazing value. I do think Emeka Egbuka should be at least targeted by some teams that are looking for a QB or looking for a wide receiver. Because I think Emeka Egbuka is extremely underappreciated, and there is a drop-off after him. There is a noticeable drop-off. You got Troy Franklin probably in that next tier with Xavier Legette, but this is a spot where I'd be willing to trade with the Chiefs for Emeka or Troy. I think Troy's a great player. I think he could be right up their alley. But, naturally speaking, this is a good way to continue building a roster that does kind of need some help. So I am going to be actually trading with Kansas City because I also don't know if the Colts aren't ready to get this nitty gritty. I think it'll actually take multiple third-round picks. I don't think the Chiefs would be willing to give up their second. Again, feel free to argue with it. I'm doing my own negotiating here. You can feel free to do your own. But the Chiefs are actually moving up to select Emeka Egbuka. You might say that he's a bigger wide receiver who's good after the catch. Kind of sounds a lot like Rashee Rice. I think Emeka Egbuka is a better route runner than Rashee. I think he's just more polished and built to be more of a boundary wide receiver. So feel free to argue with it. I think they can work very well in combo. He has really good hands, and he's really good after the catch. And he's actually pretty damn fast. I think he will be low 4.4s. So you are not really sacrificing much of the speed at all. You're getting a very talented player who could play a massive role in this offense. At pick number 21 for the Minnesota Vikings, I think I might also trade back here. I just don't believe that the value... We need to get a quarterback. It's going to be J.J. McCarthy, but the question is where. You could feel threatened with the Seahawks right here. God. I really wanted to trade back, but it does put the pressure on. If Seattle does have JJ sitting there, it might just be worth it for them to say, screw it, we're going to pull the trigger. I don't think the Vikings are in a position to negotiate. We're going to have to overpay for JJ McCarthy, who will be an upgrade over Josh Dobbs based on how he played last night. I wanted Josh Dobbs to continue his success, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. At pick number 22, this is a good spot to trade back. You got some high-level corners here. You have some really elite-level edge rushers here as well. Look at this. 3 beautiful, high-talented edge rushers. I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but just the value is unbelievable. You have 2 elite-level corners here, including some really good ones down the board too, but you have 2 corners who could play corner number 1 on your team. And looking at a team that could use that, I'm looking at the Lions here. And I know it's another in-conference rival, but the question is, how scared are you of the Lions, I don't know if I'd be that spooked. But like looking at other positions the Seattle Seahawks can go after, defensive interior is one of them. And if you do end up moving back here, you're taking away one of the teams that could take your defensive interior player. So you have to kind of game it a little bit that way. So for me, I'm going to be going with the Detroit Lions for this. This is going to be a unique trade because I think Seattle and Detroit are actually, I think Seattle wants their second round pick back. They're not going to get it. They're only going to get 85 out of this one. But, maybe they get the fourth rounder next year from Philly. Again, do your own negotiating. I was debating tossing in 76 and 59. I was debating doing that type of trade rather than just getting 85. But I feel like Detroit doesn't need as much quantity as right now drafting an elite quality player. And with this selection, again, you come down to the top two corners here. I want to get someone who has been playing corner one a little bit more and a little bit longer in Nate Wiggins, but I do think Kalen King is the better player. But at the end of the day, who cares? If you want the other one, feel free to draft the other one. Nate Wiggins is more of a corner one build at 6'2". But the Steelers, we're sitting pretty with Kalen King here. I know a lot of my Steelers fans are not fans of it. And again, Amarius Mims is returning. Please, just hear me out. Hear me out now. Amarius Mims is going to be a top 3 pick in 2025. He's in this mock draft and many others going to return. If he comes out, you bet your ass I am taking him here at pick 13. He's not going to be here. So let's just keep that very, very clear. So with that clarified, quarterback's good. Wide receiver right now is good. Tight end good. Running back good. Or at least not worth it. You look at offensive tackle. Again, Amarius Mims is returning. You got Graham Barton here and Jordan Morgan. There are some options there, but none of them remotely as good as our true corner two. We have arguably Lucifer himself and Levi Wallace as our corner two. And Kalen King's going to have that instant chemistry. I hate to disappoint y'all, but the fact is you're going to have elite chemistry day one between King and Porter Jr., and then we can have Pat Pete in the slot since he's not as athletically gifted anymore. And that can actually save our franchise. This is going to create an elite secondary. Kalen King doesn't seem to have any personality problems with his teammates either. He's a really good run defender. There's not much to not like about Kalen King except the fact that he's 5'11". But he's a damn good player. He's 190 too. So he's actually bigger than Nate Wiggins and more forceful. But again, my homerism starting to come out. Pick number 24 for the Texans. Defensive interior, edge rusher, that's where you need to rock. Just brought on Derek Barnett, so the team obviously claimed him off waivers. It's pretty obvious they are looking for another edge rusher in that rotation. I'm going to be going Dallas Turner here just because of that instant chemistry, but you're also getting somebody who is probably going to end up being my number 4 player in the draft because he is spectacular. Again, shout out to Olipop. Links are in the description for you to save some money there and help out your homie. At pick number 25 for the Miami Dolphins, it's going to take everything within me not to trade out of this pick, but I'm looking at Braylon Trice and Chop Robinson because I've seen now that Jalen Phillips, again, I'm really hoping that he can have a lengthy career. He's just unfortunately not doing so well in terms of the health department, and he had to medically retire. Again, Amarius Mims is not going to come out in this mock draft. Otherwise, again, he would have been taken number 13 overall. Braylon Trice, Chop Robinson, that's where I'm at. Let's just get extra help in there. Braylon Trice is going to be a better run defender. Chop Robinson is going to be a higher ceiling edge rusher. I don't really trust the mentorship to get Chop to the ceiling the way Braylon Trice can hit the ground day one. And when we're in the Super Bowl hunt, let's go Braylon Trice here. I don't think it's your best bang for your buck. You can go after a tackle here. But the truth is, I don't see another true starting tackle because Jordan Morgan, it's up in the air. To me, he's an early third. It's worth taking him there at 25. And same thing here at 26. It is a legitimate consideration that you should have. But there's no guarantee. Braylon Trice is going to guarantee get a lot of reps and be an excellent day one impact. You can kick him to the inside as well because he's 274 pounds. So you're having someone who's an elite athlete and a great size. Just, again, he's my number 6 player. After all, I am a little bit biased here, but that's part of the reason why I do a lot of research is because I develop biases based off of what I've seen. But at pick number 26 for the Cowboys, it's Chop Robinson or Graham Barton. I've seen a lot of really good centers in this class that we can snipe down the board. Jackson Powers Johnson being one of them. Will Frazier is another. Not to mention, we could always go Cedric Van Pran. There's a lot of good options here. RIP to Zach Zinter, by the way. Drake Nugent as well, by the way. Underrated player. Really good center. And then, I don't like Bryce Foster. But for the time being, there's some really good options down the board. I've been taking Chop for a hot minute now, and I already know Mark's going to get pissed off at me for taking him, but at the end of the day, I don't do this video to please Mark. I do think that getting an elite level edge rusher and a contingency plan for the future, because D-Law is not going to be there forever. I do think Braylon Trice is a better fit if he is on the board because he has the size to be a little bit more of that run enforcer, but Sam Williams to me is not a reliable option for the future. I love his talent, but I just don't trust him as a person who can stay out of trouble with the law. He's had a lot of issues even back dating to Ole Miss. There have been, the charges were dropped on him, but the fact is he's had he's had some intersections with the law before. So with that being said, I don't fully trust him. And when I have a talent like Chop Robinson that can get trained up by arguably one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, with Micah Parsons, who also came from Penn State, that's the route I'm going to go 10 out of 10 times. At pick number 27, looking at who's the next best guy on my board, I do have Johnny Wilson and Christian Haynes here. They're kind of both of my guys. And then after that, the next best player is Denzel Burke and Dwight McLaughlin, both star corners. And then you also have guys like Josh Newton in here. Terry and Arnold actually is probably going to be listed right here at pick number 22 if Amarius ends up coming off the board or ends up coming off everybody's draft board by returning to school. Then we'll talk about it. But at pick 27, again, I'm in love with the idea of Tyler Nubin to this team. I feel like that's just the right thing to do. But I'm going to try to find an alternate option that is, also serving of your team. I think it's defensive interior. I don't believe with $18 million cap space you can re-sign Leonard Williams. I think it was a 1-year rental, very expensive 1-year rental at that, but it is what it is. I'm going to look at Tavondre Sweat and Chris Jenkins and Leonard Taylor here. And I'm going to eliminate Leonard Taylor from that consideration. He's dropped off a little bit this year. Chris Jenkins added 20 pounds and is still a very top tier player. They actually bring him in for rundowns quite a bit, which is awesome at that size. And Tavondre Sweat is Tavondre Sweat. This guy is 362 pounds and is an absolute force of nature. For me, I love Tavondre Sweat with every ounce of my being. So I'm going to give him to the Seattle Seahawks to end up replacing Leonard Williams because, again, I just don't trust that they can afford him. And it's something new. I really want to go Tyler Nubin for this team, but again, when you got Tavondre Sweat, there's not many guys who are built like Tavondre Sweat. And with the loss of Dante Corleone today to returning to school, it feels pretty likely. But at pick number 28 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, wide receivers where I usually target for this team. Xavier Legette is it's the move I always love to make, but I want to see some other options here as well. I think Terry and Arnold has so much potential to pair up with Tyson Campbell and be an elite corner duo. I'm trying to remember who your corner 2 is right now, and it's slipping my mind. So feel free to remind me down in the comment section, even though I'll probably figure it out right after this video. But Leonard Taylor has a ton of potential here. I want to go with something besides Xavier Legette. I do think you need a wide receiver for the future, but I want to experience something different for y'all as well as for myself. That's what makes drafts interesting. We're going to go Terry and Arnold here. Very similar to Tyson Campbell coming out. I had an early second on Tyson when you guys drafted him late first, and I thought it was actually a really solid pick. He was extremely aggressive, needed time to learn to hone in his skills, but Terry and Arnold couldn't have had a better last regular season game because I'm pretty sure Alabama is going to play Georgia this week, but Terry and Arnold had 2 interceptions and 1 pass breakup. That is excellent. It's a great way to end off his season with a bang. So it's definitely worth taking a swing on. Corners are always valuable as well, so you can never go wrong with going one. But Terry and Arnold deserves our respect. I do think he goes before Denzel and Dwight McLaughlin. But at pick number 29, speaking of a team that could totally use a defensive back, we have the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Tyler Nubin could be an elite level safety for y'all. I do love Like my boy Jalen Jones, who's been starting for y'all. He's been doing a good job. I mean, y'all have been winning, right? I do think Denzel Burke and Kamari Lassiter are in the equation. I do think Dwight McLaughlin's in the equation. The question is, at 52, are we going to be in range for another corner? I don't know. We could go defensive interior here because I do think that, especially with, DeForest coming up on a contract, you will definitely need to, it's in 1 year. So it's not this offseason, it's next. You will need to have a contingency plan there, but there are some good defensive interiors next year. Excuse me, I am going to opt for the corner route. I think it's the right thing to do. I want to look at somebody with some versatility, and Kamari Lassiter needs time to develop. So the good news is that, one, you're going to find a role for him. He's going to be in the 4-2s, but also he's been playing really well too. I think he could be a day one type of guy, but you have Jalen Jones, who is the less athletic but more physical corner. Same thing with Juju Brents. Kamari might be your type of corner where when you face a much faster team, you can actually reliably put a faster corner that is not going to get toasted on somebody, i.e. maybe a Tyreek Hill that you play. So I like the idea of having that versatility, and most teams do have a burner on their team. Now you have your number one corner to face a burner. Pick number 30 for the Niners. I'm going to go Graham Barton here. I think I don't really need to explain that too much, but very versatile offensive lineman. Again, Amarius Mims is returning, but in this mock draft, it's not official yet, but Graham Barton, he can play elite level offensive interior, center, guard, and he can probably also play tackle to a pretty high level. At pick number 31 for the Baltimore Ravens, I think that corner is just the easy route to go. I'm looking at Xavier Legette here, and I do think a team should move up for him. I'm looking at the Patriots right here, and to be fair, I want to go Tez Walker for them in another round, but I also see that Jordan Morgan's still on the board, and it's very hard not to want to move up with them. Washington as well, like there is still good value with Jordan Morgan and trying to kick him to right tackle. I think he's the best player besides Kingsley Suamataia on the board. Actually, Washington has the capital to move up, and I do think Kingsley Suamataia could be a really good option, but I have a better idea. I'm still going to trade up with Washington. I am going to trade up with Washington, but it's for an edge rusher. It's going to be for JT Tuimoloau, because I think the Eagles should be really, really excited for JT to fall to them, and the Washington Commanders are going to be like, yeah, thoughts. And I think it will take probably pick 100, maybe a 4th round pick in the future. Again, feel free to do your own negotiating. But the Commanders are moving up to select JT Tuimoloau out of the Ohio State University. They have a massive need at edge rusher. The Eagles also are going to be looking for an edge rusher of a similar size and build. It's a way to kind of stick it to the Eagles, but also be able to get a guy that you truly want. Pick number 32, again, Amarius Mims. It's not on the board. Looking at the options available, I think this is the right opportunity. It's ripe to move back. And with a player like Xavier Legette, who's 6'3", 227, this team could be honestly in the move for him. But, you could, of course, make just a 1-pick move back with Carolina for them to snag an elite wide receiver. You can move with Bill, and have him do his thing. I mean, hell, you could have the Cardinals move up right now for a defensive interior because they have a gazillion picks. You got Chris Jenkins that, I'd be happy with a couple of these guys, to be fair. But Chris Jenkins is the best run defender that is left, maybe besides Ruka Roro. And also, you have him here at pick 34, and you have that Gannon connection. It's kind of all lining up. So let's get Cardinals moving up here. There's going to be that 50-year tax, so it does cost a little bit more. I traded pick 100 to jump from here to here, but I had to toss an extra 4th. I'm going to choose pick 102 right here with the Cardinals to just move up a couple spots. Like, who knows? If you're really grouchy about it, maybe we could toss in pick 253 or 178. I think the fact that it's a 70% chance right there makes me a little more confident in that value. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't affect this mock draft. We are going to be looking at Chris Jenkins, double checking that I did not draft defensive interior earlier. I did not. So Chris Jenkins, Jared Verse, and Kool-Aid McKinstry, we fixed the defense, and that's kind of what really needed to get fixed. So tomorrow we're going to be going to rounds 2 and 3, day 2. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show as always. See you on the far side.